welcome once again. This is show number 2 of
the Cougar Chronicle.
Cougar Chronicle it is. Oh, this is so exciting.
I know.
It's our second show. We're in December now.
And it's getting a little colder.
It is getting a little chilly, exactly.
Still a lot of great things taking place. Thanksgiving was lovely. I don't think I put on too much weight, but I ate as much pumpkin pie as I
think I ate my weight in pumpkin pie. It's terrible.
Never have enough of that.
I know it, I know. But you know, it's a really exciting time of year. You know, it's the time of year when, regardless of who you are, whether you're celebrating Hanukkah, Christmas, Kwanzaa, Ramadan.
It's about connections.
It is.
And I think that's couldn't really be a better way to describe the guests that we're going to have today is talking about connections.
Absolutely. And we have some great guests talking about some significant topics.
Well, we're going to bring some teachers in to talk about our competency-based education programming and what does that mean.
Yes, that's huge.
Another couple of guests from our high school talking about extended learning opportunities and what those kind of things mean for our kids as they go on to career post there. And we had such a great conversation with Michael Bissett, our assistant superintendent, and talked about some AI last time. This time we're going to talk about growth and how do we as administrators grow our teachers and the impact that makes on our students.
Exactly, and yourselves, and that leads to student growth and student learning, right?
Well, and it's all about raising everybody. You know, they say that rising tide lifts all boats. So it's trying to develop a model that really is going to make us better as a district.
Well, I have to tell you, I think the only negative input I received is one of my friend's granddaughters was afraid. She was scared by the cougar sound.
Early on.
Yeah, she said it, but I think it's great because it really gets you, doesn't it?
And again, you know, they'll love the sound, but highlighting the fact that the graphics were created by students. The opening track those are our students.
Isn't that
playing.
wonderful?
And we're going to expand on those things as we get going.
It was,
you know, we have ideas and hopes and how do we add more things to it. But again, it's
wonderful.
It is our people telling our stories.
And a big thank you to you for doing this because it really gives insight. And I have to make a plug, if that's okay.
Yes.
School board meetings.
Absolutely.
You know, I mean, and John knows, I go to the school board meetings, usually in my pajamas, because it's a little late. I'm a little old. So at 7 o'clock at night, I zoom in.
Yes,
right?
You can be there virtually or live. That, you know, every 2 weeks we have the board meetings. A lot of exciting things going on within the school board meetings. We just completed our negotiations with KREA, who was our first guest last time. So that piece has been done. Finishing up the budget, we have deliberative session, which I'm sure we'll keep reminding people happening in January. So it's really a very exciting time for us as a district, and a bit of a nerve-wracking thing too, because this is really where we're making the case to our voters that we want them to invest in the things that we have going on. But those board meetings, I cannot stress enough, if people want to have a voice in what we do within our governing, the board meetings are a great way to start. And if you can't be there physically, which obviously, you know, like a joke, nothing better to do on a Thursday night to come to a school board meeting. You can still attend via your computer, and you can still comment to people by the computer. So it's not just limited to be live to have a voice.
And it's now you have 2 public comment sessions. It's wonderful. So if you're there at the beginning, you say, oh, I forgot to ask about that. You can ask about it at the end.
100%.
And that's wonderful. So attend the school board meeting. Stay with us on Cougar Chronicle. We have a lot coming up. Great show today.
Oh, it's going to be a fun one.
Stay with us. Welcome back to the Cougar Chronicle.
We are the Cougar Chronicle.
We are the Cougar Chronicle. And it's like old home day. I'm so happy with our first segment today.
Again, I wish we could have a show running 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, and not touch all the people that we have in our district that are doing great things.
Touch the lives of our students.
So excited to introduce. So Tara Evans, Rob Henry, both are science teachers in our 7th grade program. I would like to point out, if you notice, they both have the seal pen.
You have bling.
So I know one of these things is not like the other. I noticed one, but it doesn't. But anyway, so when I first got here, one of the things was, how do we improve our brand and how do we recognize great things that are taking place? So you have the original K-Pen.
That's right.
That we have that, and then we have the seal of the district. And so one of the things that we've done is Rob and Tara were the first teacher recipients of the pen, and they're here, which is one of the many reasons why they're here, because you know there's 2 people in the community, those that have the Kearsarge pen
and those that
want a Kearsarge pen.
So I have to move over then.
So no, we're there. But anyway, so the goal was does is when we have great things that are taking place within our district, how do we recognize and honor those things and do that? Military does that with the challenge coins that
That's
are specially
right,
made.
yes.
And so within the pin, it was kind of that same thing. And a lot of it is the idea of branding. I try not to go anywhere where I'm not wearing something Kearsarge based. And so these are just a great opportunity to do that. So the reason they got the pins, because that's really why we're here, right? I mean, one, it's cool to be able to say we're part of the club, but it really is.
We're honored to be part of it.
I'm so glad to have them. So the district had moved a few years ago to competency-based education.
Right.
What you might, as we get into the Edu Speak and the acronym CBE.
Okay, CBE.
And as we are really in our first go-round pre-K-12 as a district of talking about grading and competency-based education for all of our kids, the goal is to try to demystify some of that, because this really is kind of a shift in education. It's an evolution.
And John, I'm going to let you take the lead on this, because really in the past we went from A, B, C, right, D and F, right, then to a rubric of 1, 2, 3, right?
Yep.
And now we're going to competency-based.
It's a competency-based, which is now still a 4-point rubric.
Okay.
And there's some nuances with that, but I really wanted to get the experts to talk about what their take is. And,
Thank you.
And the reason here is because the biggest piece is how do you explain it well?
Okay.
And Tara and Rob created a rubric that they use at the middle school that I loved. It would really, I'd stopped a meeting that I was with Mr. Patterson to go talk to them, because I had to get to them at that point. And it was awesome. And I pulled Tara out of she was in another meeting, and we're like, do we grab her? I need to borrow her for a second.
You pulled rank on that one, yes.
Well, I hate to do that, but it never looks good when the superintendent walks into a meeting going, I need that teacher. You know, can I borrow her? It's like, great. And then you're brought to the background going, what do we have? But anyway, but they built a rubric that got used. And so what I'd like to do is, if you would, talk a little bit about what is competency-based education, why is it important, and how are you guys using those things in your classroom to where the layperson, the non-educator.
So my understanding of competency-based education is that it is a response to the community, that over the years, community leaders, especially employers, have been asked, what are you looking for in a high school graduate? And above all, employers are looking for what we often call transferable skills. So facts and knowledge are important, but in any job, you're going to have a little bit of retraining. But employers are looking for some skills that transfer no matter what you're doing. Employees who are able to problem solve, employees who are able to communicate well, employees who are able to demonstrate leadership skills. And that idea was then brought to the educational system. You know, how can we as public educators give the public what they're looking for in their graduates?
So then with the competencies within themselves, when we look at competencies, there really are these great big umbrellas. Like, what are the really big pictures of we want our students to know? And then under those, we have what we call learning targets, which are the steps to get us to those competencies. And the beauty of our competencies is that we're able to work them within weave them throughout our curriculums in general. So instead of just tying everything to one particular topic, we can weave it through, which helps give a really broad picture. So for us as science teachers, we truly work with the NGSS, or the Next Generation Science Standards, which tie in beautifully.
And what Next Generation did was they looked at everything that scientists need to be able to do. And they came up with 3 different dimensions. One are called science and engineering practices, one are called disciplinary core ideas, and another are called cross-cutting concepts. What NGSS did was they took the facts and the knowledge that most people think of as being central to education and maintained their importance, but raised to the same level of importance these practices and concepts. Briefly, the practices are things that every scientist needs to be able to do no matter what their field. All scientists need to be able to ask questions. All scientists need to be able to obtain, evaluate, and communicate information. All scientists need to perform computational and mathematical thinking. And the concepts are ways of viewing the world that all scientists need to be able to do no matter what their field. all scientists need to be able to approach science from the point of view of matter and energy, or recognizing patterns, or cause and effect. And I think you can see how that ties in really well with these overarching ideas that Tara was talking about.
And you know, Tara, what I'm hearing is that it's not just within the discipline of science, but then that can weave into whether it's a communication piece or conceptual
Very
understanding,
so.
into math, into, you know, language arts, into
Very much so. Many of our competencies through those cross-cutting concepts of the NGSS, as Rob was saying, do tie directly, like scale, proportion, quantity. So we're tying the math into that as well. Through our science and engineering practices, like communication, as he said, is so much a part of that. So we tie the communication, the ELA, the writing, the reading into what we do as well.
Doesn't it?
Which is, and again, it's these great skills
Yeah.
that are not just limited. So there's more to science than just an experiment.
Right.
There's the communication pieces. And the thing about that is that analytical thinking and that real high order thing applies to everything that these kids can do, regardless of what subject matter it is.
And Rob, it started, it sounds like, by asking the business community or the world at large, what do you want from a high school graduate? And so isn't that how it really, it's almost, you know, thinking of it from, it trickled down really, didn't it?
That's my
Different.
understanding, is that it was a response to the
Makes
community.
sense.
Yeah. One of the things I think when we talk about the idea of a rubric, you know, we've lived in this 100-point scale. People know what an A is. They know what a 97 means. As we look at this competency piece, and grade cards are coming out, and parents are looking at some of these things, or have at this point by the time the show hits, what's the continuum? What's the difference between a 1 and a 4? Which is, I know, the existential question of why am I here kind of thing. But if there's a base level to try to describe it to a parent, how do they know the difference? Like, what does that mean? If a kid gets a 1 or a 4, where are we at?
Okay. So we'll start, unfortunately, like the 1.
Mm-hmm.
The 1, when we see a 1, those are students who, like, with that particular competency in that particular area, they still really need a lot of our teacher support. They need a lot of guidance. We're still really working with them to help them gain competency in that area. When you see a 2, that means that kiddo, they're working on it. That student is making gains. They are getting there. They are showing that, yeah, they still need support, but they're getting to that point where they are competent. They're almost where we need them or would like them to be. A 3, that's like, you've nailed it. You are there, you've got this, you are doing exactly what you need to do, like you are doing anything we ask of you within this particular competency, like you've got it. And the 4 is where we all look at each other and go, wow, where did that come from?
Okay,
Like,
okay.
there are times that our students develop ideas like ways to solve problems or come up with questions or ways to help other students. And we just look at each other and go, huh.
Isn't that wonderful?
That's the 4.
That's a 4.
The light bulb for the teacher
yes,
going off
yes,
as opposed to the
yes,
student.
exactly.
That's where we're like tying it into something new, or where they're showing how they can take this concept and apply it to something completely different, that we have new situation we've never asked them, we've never showed them.
Yeah.
And they're like, oh yeah, we've got this. Like,
So
that's
Tara,
our 4.
are you also happy with that 3?
We are, yes.
Okay.
Yes, no,
Okay.
we are happy with a 3. A 3, as I said, that's
Where they need to be.
That's the where you need to
Gotcha.
be. You are doing what you need to do, in our case as a 7th grader, or if you see a 3 as a 6th grader, or an 8th grader in the high school. But a 3 is great. A 3 is yes. You are there, you have done it, you have showed us you are competent in this particular area. Now, don't take us wrong, we are going to mix it up later, and we're going to pull that competency out somewhere else in our curriculum again, and you're going to have to show us in a different situation that you've got this. And you know what? You might go back to a 2 for a little while.
Gotcha.
And that's okay.
Oh, so it's
It's a continuum.
it's like
okay.
yeah.
So it's not a
Because you-
standardized test of one point in time. So
Right.
we have the old test, you know, how well did you do on that high school
Right,
exam
exactly.
on May 11th? It is over time. And so think about that, pull that into a piece where we've eliminated extra credit It's student demonstrating learning. So what would you rather have, a pilot that passed a class on landing because they made extra credit, or because they demonstrated competency
ability to do
in
so.
landing? Does that mean that every landing is smooth? No, but it means that they are competent and have the ability and the skill set to perform that task over a long period of time.
That really helps with understanding, doesn't it? Yeah, making it a practical.
Just and amazing. And these guys have really distilled it down to a pretty simple level. And it's obviously more complex than that as we go through. But the goal is to try to demystify. Because for some of our parents, this is a new way of thinking.
Right, it is.
Because
it really
I know
is. Yeah.
in an old school mentality, I know what an 87 means. I know what a B plus means. I know I want an A plus. But the conversation that we get to have now is before is, what is an A plus? When we're talking about a 3, when a parent, when they're calling home with a parent, or they look at a report card and they're talking to their child,
Right.
the kids are being given the opportunity to articulate their own learning, which makes that learning deeper, and they hang on to it longer.
That
All
makes
the
sense.
research shows
It
that.
really makes sense, doesn't it? And so you were really both instrumental in developing that 4-point rubric, it sounds like. I mean, in making,
Well,
yeah.
they were part of the process, but what they did is they created examples and
Gotcha.
exemplars that we then, as we teach these skills to other teachers, as we have conversations of professional development with our community, they created a tool that just made it make sense. And
But
that
that's
was what
we
was
need.
impressive.
That's what's needed. Okay, we're getting the signals wrap up in a moment. But when our guests walked in, you said, where are
Well,
the
it
awards?
just so happens, not only do we have great teachers, but we have award-winning teachers as well.
Da-da-da-da. That's
Award-winning teachers.
wonderful.
I'm going to give you the chance to embarrass
Yes,
him.
there we go. Please. Yeah, we can do that. Exactly.
Because I know he's going to try to retaliate. But you get first. You get opening salvo.
Now, this fall, just last month, Rob was awarded with the New Hampshire Science Teacher Association Novice Teacher of the Year, as he is within his first 5 years
Yay!
of
Oh,
teaching.
congratulations.
So
And
he was
he's one of
awarded
ours.
And he's
with
one of
that.
ours.
And he is one of ours. And we are
Oh,
so
Rob.
lucky to have
That
him.
is-
He is
well,
a really
Rob,
great asset to our
Congratulations. And you're
science
working with
team.
one of the best.
Yeah, I think it.
Yeah, Tara is amazing.
She is amazing.
So, it's really are.
I think it speaks really well to how well we work as a grade level team, as a middle school science department, as a middle school faculty, the teachers, the paraprofessionals,
Absolutely.
the administrators, that my colleagues could take someone who had essentially minimal experience teaching at the middle school level and bring him to a point where he could be recognized at a state level. Really speaks well to the community that we have. And I'm so fortunate
that's
to go
wonderful.
to work.
Really
Great team.
great.
Yeah, no,
work.
I can see that. You know, when this show wins awards, I'll be just, standing in front of you like this.
It's all because of Laura. It's all because of Laura. I'm good with that. We have great products. We have great people. And again,
Congratulations.
it's
Really,
Thank you.
they're
it's wonderful.
I'm so excited for the things. And just not to
For our
say
students,
that it was
too.
foreshadowing something, but I'm 100% sure that the night that Rob accepted his award, he was wearing his Kearsarge pin.
I was.
Because I was the point out. I went into the office next door to Mr. Bissett and I went, zoomed it in, and I went, look, he goes, what's he's holding? Don't mind that.
Look at the bling.
He's wearing the pin. But not only are they award winning, you guys are just great people.
Right.
And people that
Who
we
care
would
deeply.
want to be around other people's kids. And so
We do.
thank you so much for
do.
everything
Yeah,
you do.
thank you.
I appreciate you
So
taking the
glad to
leap
see you
and
and-
coming up
Appreciate
here.
the invite.
Right.
And there's a chance you'll be back at some point in the near future.
Oh, we'd love that.
And we'll go from
Please,
there.
that would be.
But we'll give you a little more
Whatever
lead
you
time.
need.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Well,
Thanks so much.
stay with us. Coming up on Cougar Chronicle, we're going to be going from the middle school to the high school.
So the high school. Now we'll be
Yeah.
talking extended learning opportunities.
Can't wait.
And how do those transferable skills meet the next generation as we move up the ladder?
We have a lot of good stuff going on this show, John.
We've got a lot of good stuff happening within the district, Laura, and it happens every day.
Yeah,
And
it
isn't
really
it awesome
does.
that we get to document
it really is. It's such a joy. Yeah. So stay with us and you can find out about some of these joys coming up. Well, welcome back. We're so glad you decided to join us today. Isn't this fun? Speaking of which, we have two wonderful guests today.
I have been just chomping at the bit to get these two on.
I know you
And
have
finally,
been.
I arm wrestled them a little bit as we go from there. So I've got Amanda Leslie and Rebecca Hemingway, who are both our high school teachers. Ladies, thank you so
Yes,
much.
Thank you.
Thank you
So
for having us.
the question, of course, is why are they here?
Right,
You know?
right.
So they lead our extended learning opportunities program at the high school. And so I wanted to explore that a little bit. There's some other topics that we want to kind of chase down with these two ladies, but they're doing such exciting work, and it's so different because, and they'll get into it. I'll give you the chance to talk about that. But what I get so much excitement of is it's a different way of educating.
It is, isn't it?
It really is.
And it's one of those acronyms you were talking about, right?
Yes.
ELO?
ELO, Extended
Extended
Learning
Learning
Opportunities.
Opportunities. Okay.
So ladies, welcome.
Thank you.
Appreciate you being here. So
Love it.
what is an extended learning opportunity and why is it important?
So extended learning opportunities are just that. You're taking the foundation of what children have achieved in school from basic skills, and now we're giving them the opportunity to see it in real world time. Like, it's that experiential component that makes ELOs special. It's learning not just those 21st century soft skills, what an employer might want, what employment looks like, but also advanced academic skills, applying some of your science, some of your math at a site like the Advanced Regenerative Manufacturing Institute that's under Dean Kamen's umbrella in Manchester.
An
We have a
amazing,
group going
amazing
there.
organization. Yeah, isn't that?
Absolutely.
So that
So
this kind of
seeing
takes
that-
hands-on learning to a whole new level.
Absolutely, absolutely.
And I would build on to what you said as far as it being an extension of learning, that it takes us beyond the curriculum. You know, we have just standard offerings for all students, and ELOs really allow individuals to move beyond that based on their interest and motivation.
Is that driven by the department or by the district, or can I come in and say I have a grandchild who's really interested in learning how to construct a Segway? You know,
I'm going to present it, I'm going to ask the experts.
yeah, no,
So it is our high school students. We often encourage students from sophomores to seniors for their participation. Freshman is sort of a transition year, although we do have some freshmen involved. But we welcome all students to find their passion. Sometimes students think they're passionate about something, as in the situation of our licensed nurse assistant course.
Right.
Many want to go into nursing school. Sometimes they finish that and they say, oh no, that's not what I want to do, which is just as valuable. It is learning that is just as valuable as having it enhance or help you meet your goals educationally. But everybody, all levels, we have many, many different ELOs. We have 12 group ELOs right now, from manufacturing, which we partner with the state for a CNC machine operator course, and we have manufacturing partners, all the way to licensed nursing assistant or artist storytelling. Others, we have many individual ELOs.
We do. We have one student who is who has an internship with the ACLU. We have new ELOs all the time, some that are in development. We had a young man reach out to us just within the last couple of weeks about a business career exploration. We have a student who is writing a column for the Intertown Record.
Oh, wonderful, yes.
And partnering. Yeah, with that organization. We have several students who have jobs and are earning credit through the work-study program, which is slightly different than regular ELOs, but piggybacks on it.
Just the breadth of opportunities.
and depth.
Do me a
Yes.
favor if you would, because this one's one of my favorites. Talk about the storytelling ELO, because I really engaged with that when I was, right after I'd gotten hired. We're coming up, just a little over a year since I got named.
Right.
And I had a chance to kind of see some of that information. And I thought that was so fascinating. So just, if you would, talk about that ELO.
That's one of everybody's favorites, including ours.
Love it.
And I would say that is an ELO that brings everyone involved a real sense of joy. So we are partnering with Woodcrest Village here in New London, and we take a group of students there periodically to meet with residents. When it first begins, we all meet as a group and share our stories, just a brief introduction to each other, and then residents and students partner up. We try to ease into the relationships through some shared reading and discussion of the readings, and then students and partners move into sharing their own stories, which our students eventually write as kind of personal narratives that are in the third person, and they do an audio recording which is archived with StoryCorps, which is a national online organization.
Matt, it's amazing. And the incorporation of the arts and the creativity, it's amazing.
And the connection that I was able to see from the outside in with our students, with these older adults. And I heard a story from, actually from Superintendent Fenneberg was telling me a story when I had come to visit, that there was a student that had built a connection. I think that student went abroad for a trip and then came back and had matching scarves for themselves and for the person they partnered up with.
I love that.
So when we talk about that, the beauty of some of these things, again, relationships are so valuable and so important, but with these connections, it transcends just the skills. We get some of those soft skills, the importance of having another person in our life that's championing our success or our kids' success, which is so much fun. Is there a prototypical ELO kid, or is this something that anybody within the high school could?
Anyone. We have students from very diverse interests, very diverse levels, because ELOs are the epitome of differentiated instruction, right?
Absolutely.
It is about experiences.
So cool.
If a student isn't writing, we give them the chance to do it as a presentation. Everything ends in a presentation, but the relationship that's developed, I mean, it's one of collaborative ownership, right? Especially the group ELOs that may have between 4 to 8 students, they become their unit, right? I mean, we have students who would never have seen themselves in a peer group with maybe some of those other students, and now they have a common interest, right? Yeah. So again, it's another connection all the way to the individual ELOs that we give them, we have a Project Climb Leadership ELO where students are reading and writing and helping take a more leadership role in the organization of the trips and everything. And just through competencies and benchmarks and achieving goals, they'll earn credit for their role. But students are embracing that.
So layered, right? It's not just, I want to learn about something and need an extended learning opportunity. That's incredibly layered. And the fact that they're now organizing the trips and involved in understanding management.
The level of engagement.
Yeah,
and then
it's wonderful.
And then the accountability on the back end where as we get into, as we talked with our previous guest about that competency-based education piece of the accountability and what did I learn? Because a student being able to articulate what they learned is such a big deal. Now, let me ask you this, because I definitely want to hit another topic. So I'm a business owner and I have an interest in supporting ELOs through the high school. What do I need to do? How do I get involved?
So reach out to us, and we, just as often occurs, whether we're networking with an individual for a student who has expressed their specific interests, or we're networking with businesses and individuals because we think, hey, there are students that would have this interest. But we set up an initial meeting. We go out and say, what do you think? How could we create a scaffold for a student to take their learning to a higher level? We have over 100 students participating in ELOs right now, and it's only November.
And it's growing.
It
Isn't that
is. It is.
incredible?
And
Now,
can
go
I
ahead.
jump
No,
in?
please.
Well, I wanted
Oh,
to
absolutely.
follow
Yes.
up on your question.
Yeah.
The journalism ELO that I mentioned before, where we have a student writing for the Intertown Record, that came about because the editor, Annette Vogel, reached out and said, I would love to have someone write a column. And so we then marketed that idea to the student body and followed up with the young lady
Great opportunity.
who reached out. So there are a lot of different ways that these programs can come about.
So reaching out to you, and I'm sure we'll throw your email up, so that way people can
Absolutely.
get in touch with you as we do that. We don't have a lot of time left, but I definitely wanted to hit this. These ladies also, they do such great work with our students, obviously every day.
Clearly, yeah.
But I've had a chance to interact with them and engage with them and partner with them on another kind of topic. And so mental health, not, ELOs are fun. Mental health is a kind of a serious
Sure.
thing. And we're seeing an increased need in our mental health with our students, with our staff, with the community. And so I just wanted to give you a moment or two, if you would talk about your passion behind that and kind of where do you see we're kind of heading. We've got about a minute or so left to finish up the segment. So give you the opportunity to kind of talk about the importance of that and where do you think we can head with it?
So I think, obviously, advocating for students has always been close to our hearts, right? That's why we're in this position. And last year, Amanda had the opportunity to partner with Dartmouth Hitchcock regarding the formation of a group, which had started at the middle school on a smaller scale, to look at the Youth Risk Behavior Survey data.
Okay.
So they looked at 2021 data, and then 2023 was released. And I think that data, for me especially, and I'll let you
Yeah,
take
it really
from there,
highlighted
highlights
the
need.
concerns in our community around mental health and the concerns of student mental health. I think the country really started to pay much closer attention to students' mental health with the COVID pandemic and remote school. That really highlighted some of the struggles. And I think that was then reflected in this 2021 data and has been underscored for us as we have looked at that data and worked with students on analyzing it.
We need a whole nother segment
think
on
we
this
would.
because
Would
this
you-
is.
would
Would
you
you
ladies
come
be willing
back?
to come back?
Seriously,
I would love
and have a
would
conversation?
love.
So in the new year,
Would
this is
love to come back.
significant and
It is
really,
significant.
really
Come back.
important.
We've got some pretty exciting things that are starting to develop kind of
Yes.
at the grassroots level behind the scenes. And so I just wanted to kind of set the stage and give them an opportunity to talk.
Thank you, by
But
the
very
way.
much, we'll
Thank you.
bring you back and
Oh
we'll
my
talk more
gosh,
about
yeah.
both the survey and some of the things that the district's going to be doing to support our kids.
We would love
Okay.
that.
Amanda,
Would
Rebecca,
love
so
that.
nice
Thank you
having
so
you
much for
here.
being here.
Thanks so
Thank you very
much.
much.
But a great, and please, we have to bring them back next.
Without a doubt.
in the
And
next
the
month
beauty
or
of it
two.
is everybody that we have has multiple stories to tell.
That's right, and wonderful, wonderful
Thank
stories.
you so much,
Thank
ladies.
you.
Well, thank you for joining us. Coming up, Michael Bissett, the Assistant Superintendent, will be joining us.
Yes, you will.
Stay with us. Well, welcome back to Cougar Chronicle. I got it right?
It is the Cougar Chronicle. We are there.
I keep calling it the Kearsarge Cougar
The
Chronicle.
first Thursday of the month.
Yeah,
Don't ever
I-
forget that.
yeah, exactly.
That the Cougar Chronicle comes in
That's right.
new. I know that within this last month, very excited. Got a lot of great feedback from people.
Yeah.
Really enjoying those stories. And I think what's awesome is that within there are three very different stories that got told. And so it's an opportunity to really break those things out. And just, again, it's always fun to have these guests.
Well,
that
we're
are
grateful
experts.
to you because you're really lifting the veil and letting us really understand what's going on in the district through your experts.
It's a little bit different than the old Wizard of Oz. Don't pay any attention to that man behind the curtain. I think
That's
it's
right.
important for our community to understand what it is that their taxes go to.
It's true.
And so when we make, again, trust is our word of the year. And so how do you build trust? You build trust through transparency.
That's true.
But by the same token, there are so many great stories that people aren't getting access to. That
It's amazing.
That you as an
Yes.
educator here get to see it. I get to see it every day. Our guest gets to see it every
Right.
day. But our community, it's ways for them to be able to interact that then hopefully opens up better conversations and may turn into, you know what, that resonates with me, I can help expand that, or I want to put more support behind certain things. Or if anything, just the confidence of knowing that these are great things that are happening every day for our kids.
We're approaching the deliberative session coming up in January, and it helps us understand where our tax dollars are going and why it's so important. So this is wonderful.
And it really isn't. I mean, I'm not sitting here trying to sell snake oil. It's not. There's no smoke. There's no mirrors. These are truly the great things that we're doing every day.
Sure.
And what great opportunities, like with our next guest, who we brought back.
That's right. It's old as new.
Oh, we have it coming out. Again, I want to welcome Mr. Michael Bissett, the Assistant Superintendent for the Kearsarge Regional School District. Thanks, sir. Appreciate it. If you remember last time, Michael did a wonderful job talking about artificial intelligence.
And really eased my fears.
Well, and I think you got to see how something scary, when we get some information and we're able to really kind of dive in, you can see that it has uses. And one of the things that I really have talked about last time is there were so many amazing things. There are so many amazing things that really have started and did start through the Assistant Superintendent's office. And I get the benefit of sitting in the cheap seats and saying, these are what I think about that. But one of the things we talked about last time, I wanted to bring him back again, and I see this being a consistent segment within the show and the program, is we really have changed and shifted on how we are providing feedback to our teachers. So when you remember being a teacher, the principal would come in your classroom one time, announced some
with the notepad and the pen,
and doing all that stuff.
Right.
Well, that evaluative model just we found out isn't as great as people think. And you know, let's be honest here. You're going to put on the dog and pony show for your boss when they show up, but it's
tell the kids to be on their best behavior.
Exactly. Here's some gumdrops or some puffy stickers or whatever we go. The model that got shifted with a lot of leadership, and it was a collaborative effort, and I know Michael will talk about that, is this idea of this model based on growth. And so it's looking directly at the skills of the individual teacher, giving them agency and the ability to decide, how do I as an educator want to grow? And then we provide support around that. Would you say that's a pretty good starting point? Expand on that. Talk a little bit about how we got here with this model.
I mean, the history of this started with merit pay. Years and years and years ago in this district, preceding myself in the district used to operate on a merit pay, which was a pay for performance kind of model. And so a supervisory agreement was crafted, probably 3 superintendents, maybe 4 before John, that came into fruition. It was built on Charlotte Danielson standards. There were about 60 standards that were reportable standards. And over time, teachers were ranked for their performance on their ability to meet those standards. And the differences in performance, when you started to look at the data around how teachers were scoring within those systems, was thousandths of a point. And it was meaningless data. It really wasn't describing what teachers needed to know in order to professionally improve. And it sure wasn't capitalizing on the important aspects of teachers' passions about the things that are important to them in their classrooms. It was more of a standardized approach, a kind of a here's your recipe for success, and let's tell you how you're doing in comparison with it. So they would do the dog and pony show. They
almost
would show up.
Almost a pay-to-play type of thing?
Yes.
And the amount of reflection and the amount of energy that went into the system was not equal. Teachers were putting a lot of time and energy and effort into thinking about how am I going to show up for that one particular event, rather than reflecting on the feedback that was coming to them from that event, right? And so the ROI, the return on investment, just wasn't there. And even more insidious, it eroded trust, because when teachers felt like the feedback that they were receiving wasn't important to them, or worse, it was critical of their performance, and it was a one and done type of an event where there wasn't a good sufficient body of evidence, then we were in trouble.
It doesn't benefit anybody, does it?
And Laura, we've got one of the things that's kind of neat about this, and we're going to go into this in more depth, is we partnered, the district partnered with a guy named Dave Cartoonan from cartoonan.edu, and we created a custom video about Portrait of an Educator.
Okay.
That really kind of encapsulates the feeling and the spirit of that. And I really, you want let's take a look at it.
We have it.
Yes.
Good. Let's see it.
A portrait isn't just a creation by an artist. It's a compact between the creator and their subject. The subject presents who they are in this moment, where they've come from, and where they may be going. while the creator provides the best conditions to capture the moment. The backdrop, lighting, and framing to help a subject shine. At Kearsarge Regional School District, this is how we approach our portrait of an educator. There's trust that when we place a lens on the professionals who educate our students, they'll be provided the best conditions to shine. And so that when we assess each educator's portrait, we know the conditions, composition, and angle is the same for all.
A portrait of a Kearsarge educator starts with 3 key competencies.
Kearsarge educators demonstrate knowledge of content and pedagogy.
We create a professional and effective learning environment.
And we show professionalism in everything we do.
We demonstrate these competencies by meeting learning targets based on our experience level.
As professional educators, we know learning is a lifelong journey. We continue our professional development every year, all year long, not just while school is in session, so that when we sit for our next portrait, we can show our growth over time and present our best selves.
At Kearsarge Regional School District, we know a picture may consist of millions of pixels to create a vibrant image.
But that 1 million data points can't provide a path for professional growth. Our educator cycle of professional growth revolves around 5 key steps, and it builds on the compact of trust in every good portrait. Between our educators, the subject of the portrait, and our administrators tasked with assessing them. Our cycle starts with educator reflection. We each analyze our own proficiency, identify areas of need for growth, and determine the actions we'll need to support our learning, all directed at better serving our students. It then moves to goal setting. We set SMART goals to achieve this growth. We then collect evidence to demonstrate these goals and check in with our administrators. We gather artifacts that demonstrate our skills, knowledge, and effectiveness, like student work, lesson plans, and even our own reflective writings. We then present this evidence of our competency. When we each use the same structure to present, we know that every educator's portrait can be assessed objectively. And by the spring of each school year, our administrator provides feedback, which includes a proficiency rating to begin the cycle anew.
As administrators, we honor this portrait with supportive, actionable feedback.
And we pledge to assess each educator in the same way. Our proficiency rating consists of 4 distinct tiers, which we will assess in each of our 3 competency areas.
The first tier is not demonstrating, indicating a need for support to reach the target. The second tier is developing, indicating proficiency approaching the target. The third tier is applying, indicating proficiency at the expected target. And the fourth and highest tier is innovative or leading, indicating a proficiency achievement above the expected target.
We will support our educators at every tier of proficiency, not just through feedback, but by walking them through setting their own targets and sponsoring training opportunities at both the school and district level for us to grow together.
This is how we create a portrait of an educator, a compact of trust between educators and administrators, where both sharpen the focus on serving our students, and where every member of our community can look into these portraits and understand what it means to be a professional educator in Kearsarge Regional School District.
Unbelievable.
Again,
Yeah, it really, and it tells
breaks
you.
it down.
Yeah,
Our
the story.
people, again, as you look at that, it's our people telling our story. Those
That's
are our
right.
educators. And so we have folks that are part of that thing. And Michael and Superintendent Fenneberg previously were instrumental in those partnerships. And I remember when you were filming that, we had talked about how much fun that day was.
Was it really?
It was a lot of fun. And you know, from the work that we did with teachers, this work was not just myself or Winford or any administrator in general. We had 25 at one point. I think we ended with 22, but 22 to 5 educators and administrators sitting at a table for almost 2.5 years to develop this model. And
Wow.
it started with an analysis of where things weren't going well. We really broke down, and we took the data, asked everybody involved, teachers as well as educators who are in alternate roles like nurses or occupational therapists, all the types of individuals who we consider still to be educators. We collected all this data, and then we sat in a room for literally a year digesting the data. And what we came out with that is that we needed to work on our trust building. We needed a system that would develop trust. We needed to have a system that gave educators voice and choice in their experience about selecting and honing in on the things that were professionally important to them. We needed to have a standards-based, competency-based model with learning targets that we could differentiate and allow teachers to have access to at different points in their careers that specifically targeted accountability in the early years before we got to the place where tenure was a question for them. And then afterwards, respect the professionalism that they have and the professional work that they do, and honor those values by really investing in what they believe to be important professional pursuits that lead to student learning outcomes that are improved. And so we've created this model, which is a cyclical process. You can see from the video that process of goal setting, which is then followed by the teacher's professional development programming that they establish for themselves as an IPDIP, one of those fancy entry Bible words, right?
The alphabet soup.
Yes, yeah.
It's think of it as a triptych from
Gotcha.
from AAA. Remember the old days before computers?
Oh, yeah.
So the triptych model, exactly, that triptych model where it says, here's where I want to be, but here are the checkpoints and the benchmarks along the way, and these are the resources I might need. That shifts the thinking, and it causes the administrator to take on a much different role. And that role is supporting and providing coaching or feedback that's actionable to get that educator what they need to find success.
So it's shoulder to shoulder
100%.
as opposed to you'll do this.
Yes.
Yeah. Right?
And there's no, and again, it all comes back to student learning. So it's you decide what you want to be involved with. The conversation that then happens is that's wonderful. How is that going to impact student learning, and how are we going to know? And so it's not, there's no gotcha model to it because it's your decision. Our job is to support your choice. Now, we can coach, we can influence, we can do a lot of different things, but we can't direct, because the second we direct, now we're in a different model. And we've got a different system for that when we have teachers that may need a little more support, that needs to be a little more directed. But this thing is all about, it's about educator success and how it impacts student learning.
And Michael, there's a lot of listening there, wasn't there, in the video?
And you have to listen, and I think you have to be open to the feedback that the teachers and the educators were providing to us. But I had an old friend, she was a BCBA, that I used to work with when I was a principal years and years ago, and she used to say something very similar to what John's, I think, father used to say, which is about inspecting and expecting. But she always used to say to me when I was a principal, you get more of what you pay attention to. And so when we're sitting back and we're looking at educators who are putting forth their best foot effort to try to lead a project for their own professional growth, and that's the key word, growth. Teachers would not take risks under the old model to really try something on that was new or innovative in its approach, because they were afraid that they were either going to lose money or they were going to lose some sort of a performance ranking which is going to threaten them. Taking that pressure off and saying to them, no, we want to work with you to your growth and we want to support that, changes the game. And it really puts them in a position of professional respect that they deserve, but also helps us to ensure quality, because everything we're doing is about student learning outcomes.
So Michael, when you come back, and it sounds like we have a regular segment with our assistant superintendent.
Like a minute with Michael. But it's more than a minute.
Love that.
I know, but I don't want to just give him 60 seconds because he's got so much to say.
Well, we can, and as I listen to this ties in directly with competencies, right? And really helping retain good teachers.
It is.
Because it's a collaborative process.
And it also models the student learning process, believe it or not. It gives our teachers a better understanding of when they're sitting down and they're crafting lessons and activities that are competency and designed, and learning targets are embedded into those competencies. We're modeling for our own teachers a process that they're modeling in their classrooms for their students. So and honestly, it was also, John and I, when we first started, we decided that we need to do this as administrators as well. We didn't have a satisfactory administrative piece, so we've designed the portrait of an administrator, which is a parallel process with a different set of competencies, mind you, and learning targets. But it's in exactly the same design that from everyone in my office, myself included, down, the only person that doesn't get to do that is the superintendent.
I have a different set of bosses, so it's a whole different mindset.
Exactly.
We'll talk about that at some point.
But we model that for our teachers.
Right, and it's modeling. Yeah, well,
and it's accountability, that you're walking the same path that we're going to walk.
Right.
And because we want that to be just growth, and it is all about lifting folks up to be the best educators they can.
Michael, thank you so much. It's great having you again, and we'll see you next show.
Yep.
Really, we'd love to have you back. Well, coming up, someone's on the hot seat.
Oh, I forgot about that. Now I'm nervous.
It's Ask the Superintendent time, and we do have a couple of questions, so get ready.
It'll be good. I can't wait.
Stay with us. We'll be back. Well, welcome back. It's our final segment of Cougar Chronicle. That's right, my favorite time.
We have so much fun.
It is such a delight. There's so much going on. It's so many wonderful things to chat about. And we appreciate that.
Well, and I just again appreciate the relationship and the connection. I will tell you jokingly, my wife said, "You must have something going really good with that friendship with Laura because you don't put a tie on for anybody." But I make sure that I put a tie on for you.
That's right. Thank you. I'm honored. I am
welcome.
honored. Absolutely, without a doubt. Well, the first question. You ready? It's our very first question of Ask the Superintendent, so I need the glasses, forgive me.
Not a problem.
Okay, so this comes from a member of the Kearsarge community from Wilmette.
Okay.
And they were talking about local issues, right, which are reflective and influenced by state and possibly federal issues too.
Yes.
So what's the connection? How do you make those decisions? Are they made by you, by the school board? That's what this viewer wanted to know.
Okay, great question. So when we talk about the idea of policy typically will come from statutes that we get from the state and from the federal level. And so when those policies drive, they really drive everything that we do. It enumerates and provides what the board's responsibilities are, what my job responsibilities are, how do we expect students to act, how do we treat our staff. It covers a myriad of things. And if you really want a great chance to fall asleep early, jump on our school website and you can look at the policies. But all of that stuff comes through statute. As those things change and evolve through new statutes, we have to update our policy. So here in the district, and Missouri was a little bit different, so I'm still learning some of the process here within New Hampshire. We have a policy committee that's a board policy that meets every month, and it actually is open to the public. It's an agendaed, full-blown state meeting that gets together, and that's where policy starts. And so when we have policies that are required by state statute, then that's where those things begin. We have a New Hampshire School Board Association is one of the groups that provides us basically the base policy language. They have attorneys that work with, and districts have the ability to make adjustments within certain parameters on that. But those start at the policy committee. When they come out of policy committee, then they go to the school board for 2 readings. By the second reading, the board has had time to digest what they're talking about. But ultimately, the board is the governing body of the district. They decide what policies get pushed forward and what policies don't. If there's adjustments to be made, they can kick those things back to the policy committee, and then we have to make the adjustments. But once the board votes on a policy, after that gavel hits and the policy's been adopted, it is now live. And so we have to make adjustments, and then administratively, then it's our responsibility to go back within our administrative team, communicate with our families, communicate with our staff and students, anything that would go through there. Right now, I think we have 30 policies that are mandated by law changes. And so every year we go through this dance, if you will, of the legislation changes the law and it changes our policies, and we have to update. So if you think about it, it takes us about a month to get through the process because we have 2 board meetings a month, unless we're in July or Christmas or holiday break. And so when we look at that, and so we're getting about 4 policies updated per month.
It's a lot.
It's
it
a
really
ton
is.
to take in.
Yeah, it really is.
But there
But it
is a
helps to understand.
process, and I think the big thing that I want folks to understand is it's not a John Fortney policy.
Right.
It's not an Indy One school board member policy. The board has its power when the board meets. And so one board member has a voice, but they only get to vote when they come together. And in as much as I think we want to get into situations where we may feel we want to be reactionary, something happens we don't like,
Right.
we want to change the policy. It's not that simple because there has to be a vetting process because ultimately anything that we do is legally binding within those policies.
That makes sense. It really does.
It's tough.
Yeah, it really is. And listen, just know that when you do come to the school board meetings and those policy issues are addressed, they are being taken into consideration. And that's why you go into private session too.
All of it.
Often.
Yeah,
That's good.
we have the tough conversations.
Yeah, and we have been having some tough conversations, and that's good
Yes.
because that's what a community does, right? So the second one, I just want to encourage you, please don't be afraid to submit those questions. I was approached by someone about that because I think they didn't want to.
Well,
up to you
and I
directly.
know sometimes it might be frightening to send a question to the
That's
superintendent.
right, exactly. So grab me, send it, anyway, smoke signals, get it to us.
There's a myriad of ways to get to it, but if you put ask the superintendent on the subject line, I promise you we'll find a way to get to Laura, and we're not pre-screening to take only the easy questions
Well,
because I don't
speaking
want
of
that.
easy questions, now
geez.
back
This
in
may
the-
not be the hardest
no,
one.
this might be the. So my husband and I loved Beauty and the Beast. We just loved it. Sandy Nelson and the students and our community members who were playing in the pit and the orchestra. It was amazing.
Unbelievable
It was
show.
unbelievable.
I had a chance to take my wife and our grandkids to the
they
show.
were adorable.
And they,
Yeah.
I appreciate
Yeah,
that. They were well
yeah,
behaved that
yeah.
night. But they, both kids were just blown away.
Oh, it was
blown away.
In 2 months, not even, they put this incredible production. I have seen you everywhere. So that's my question. My question, is it important for you to go to events? Because I see you every time I go somewhere, you're there.
Well,
so help me understand.
There's a couple of answers on that. One, as a superintendent of schools, I've said this a number of times, I have to make decisions based on what other people are doing. And it's hard to make those decisions if I'm not physically there to see what we have going on. Also, at sporting events, I was an old high school principal. I really just like going to sporting events and seeing what kids do or going to the plays. And also then it's that exposure piece. I had so much fun watching our kids do the things they do at the Beauty and the Beast show and it's so special, so much more special when you know the kids. It's one thing to pay to go to the play, to go see the big thing. But when you're at the show and you're like, I had a conversation with that kid last week about what kind of candy they got for Halloween.
Oh, that's wonderful.
You know,
yeah,
just
exactly.
the joking kind of thing. I just want to be an active member of the community. So for me, it's a passion. I got involved in this job because I like working with kids and I like having those kind of impact and income. And when you live in the place like we do here in the Kearsarge community, why would you not want to be out and about? And the more stuff I go to, the more I want to attend because I'll be real honest with you. It's great entertainment at a low cost. It really is. I mean, I don't have to spend. I mean, I have no problem paying the entrance fee.
Right. But
gladly would do that.
Exactly. And you're celebrating our students.
Well, and
is
again,
a gift.
it's being around the community member. And every time I'm out and about, I have an opportunity to have a conversation with another community member or another student or another piece from there. And the only thing that does is gives me a chance to tell our story.
That's right.
And that's what we want to continue to do.
Absolutely. Well, John was so glad and so happy to see you at all those events. Now, it is December. We wanted to take this time to wish you and yours a wonderful, joyous holiday season.
Absolutely. Hope you have great times and great rest. A snowball fight that you win.
That's right.
And didn't start, because those are some of the best ones.
I always lose. I always end up with snow caked everywhere.
If I can't shot put it, I'm not getting
There we
very
go.
far. So I look intimidating, but I throw it over your head every single time.
Okay, deal. Okay, we'll do our next one live from the snowbanks.
Perfect.
Thank you so much for joining us on Cougar Chronicle, and we will see you coming up next year. Is that an old joke that I'm allowed to tell?
See you next year. Every time. I don't know. There's certain jokes that are timeless and always are funny, and I think that's one. So we'll definitely for sure see you next year. We've got a lot of great things going on. Deliberative session coming up in January. Very important place for people to be involved and to have their voices heard and really have a great understanding of what we're doing within the school budget and how that impacts them.
And very quickly, next show, we have some fun stuff going on, too.
A lot of stuff there.
Yeah.
We've got, I know for sure we're going to have Michael Bissett back, the
Right,
assistant
which will be great.
superintendent. A lot of great information going there. And then also, I anticipate we're going to have Brett Perret, our facilities guy.
Perfect. He's a hard worker.
Well, we're on the kind of on the end of this long-range facility study, so we should have some great reports coming out.
Excellent.
That, you know, whether you like it or not, it's going to wind up affecting our tax bill in the next few years. So let's go ahead and have those conversations now.
Exactly.
And then, because it's always a mystery. You got to keep a little bit back. We'll have some surprise guests.
Some surprise guests coming up, too. And a lot of work from the students, too. So thank you again for joining us, and we'll see you next year on
the Cougar Chronicle. Thanks so much.